I think this Wisconsin Supreme Court race is going to be an interesting indicator, right? Because if I had to put money on it, I think the liberal, I forget her name, Janet, it's a long Polish name. I'm not going to try to pronounce correctly. But if I had to bet, I would bet she's probably going to win. And I base that on the 2022 midterm results, right? I mean, in states where abortion rights hung in the balance and it was close, right? Unless it was a deep red state, Democrats tended to win those statewide races. And so as much as it makes sense that they'd be heading for an iceberg in 2024, I think we also have to understand that the Republicans have some big questions they have to answer themselves. And I think the Democrats are hoping that they're not going to be able to answer them. And I think the voter base in this country has just become so normie because all the radicals have been filtered out. They've been bullied out. They've been intimidated out, right? Right. The most radical Trump base, they were the January 6 people and were locking schizophrenics in jail for 5 years for walking around the Capitol building. Right. George Floyd, protest BLM. As soon as they made a demand, defund the police, what happened? Democrats, no, we can't do that. We need more funds for the police. So they've been filtered out. And who you have left are the normies. And the normies are not going to go for a fucking 13th century anti-abortion crazy bullshit platform. They're just not. Yeah. As horrible as the Democrats are, they are going to be in the game until Republicans come up with answers to those questions. We covered on our it was our paid subscriber exclusive video last night that we did about the Republicans in North Carolina bent the knee and passed through a bless you. Sorry, they passed through the expansion of Medicaid under the ACA, and the Democratic governor signed it. That's an example of the Republicans understanding, I think, that 1 year out of 2024, they have to be less terrifying on reproductive issues and on issues of the ACA. They cannot scare people that they're going to take their, bronze plans away or whatever it is, or they're going to have to expand Medicaid coverage, right? They're going to have to be less terrifying, partly because of what Russell, pardon me, said, which is that they're getting an influx of working class voters now, and they cannot afford to screw them as hard as they are used to screwing them. Right. But, I would never accuse Democrats of being fast learners. I wouldn't accuse Republicans of being fast learners either. So it is up in the air, I think. I'm not as certain that the Democrats are headed for a crushing defeat in 2024. It certainly looks bad for Biden, but Republicans, they blew it last time, and they can certainly blow it this time.
Yeah. They are. We talk about the Roe v. Wade. I just want to say one of the things that everyone here is freaking out about in Florida is the discussion on the 6-week ban, which is a de facto pure ban. A 6-week ban is a ban. That's most people don't even know that's just a ban. And there, of course, people are worried about it, rightfully so. It is worrisome. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that Ron DeSantis, who's running for president, is going to sign a 6-week abortion ban. I just
can't see it. If he does it, he's kissing it goodbye, and he's throwing it right to Trump, because Trump will take full advantage of it, even if he put those, even if he put Coney Island and Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, no, but the problem is that DeSantis is going to create a situation that, mark my words, he's not going to have to sign it. Because he's not going to be put in a position where he's going to either disappoint the rabid base or potentially lose the majority of the country nationally. He's going to create a scenario where somebody somehow that will never make it to its desk. It is not going to make it to his desk one way or the other. Somebody in that legislature is going to fall on some sword, because he is not going to be in a position to either sign or not sign that bill.
From Politico, with the exception of the governorship, Republicans have long had a lock on most levers of power in the state. They have a strong majority of the congressional delegation. And of course, that's all about gerrymandering. They're on the cusp of supermajorities in both legislative chambers, and conservatives currently hold sway on the state Supreme Court. But a liberal win in the April 4th election could upend all that. It would give liberals an effective majority on the high court, and with it, the possibility to redraw state and congressional district lines in ways that dramatically curb Republican power. Wisconsinites are very familiar with hearing this in the most important election of our lifetime. Of course, Democrats always say that. I don't need to read further on that line. Liberal takeover of the Supreme Court could even factor into the race and control of the U.S. House in 2024. A win by Democrat-backed Janet Protzowitz, I guess is how you say it, Janet.
I lived in Greenpoint for 3 years, and I still got nothing on that name.
Potazewicz? I guess that probably be it. That whole Chicago-Milwaukee connection right there, which could shift control of the court from a one-seat advantage for conservatives to a 4-3 liberal majority, could have a domino effect in the state. She's facing former state Supreme Court Justice Dan Kelly, the conservative candidate backed by the state GOP in the technically nonpartisan race. Of course, we all know it is.
It's a loser issue. This is a loser issue to fight on. Most people are not with this.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that this is definitely an advantage to the Democrats in this particular race.
Is it enough? Is that enough to combat the economy? I mean, the one wrinkle that got thrown in today, which is not a surprise, because again, the sabotage within our system is so great that you almost have to wonder why somebody like George Soros decided that now he's going to get involved and throw $1 million behind Janet and basically just rile up, all of the conservatives and even the less inclined progressives.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Now, sick and tired of the things that he's done. I mean, listen, he got involved with our state attorney's race down here.
Yeah.
And he almost pulled it off.
He poked his nose in our state attorney's race.
Let me assure you, he threw $1 million behind this guy. I'll say his name because of shit, because he's not in it anymore. This guy, Joe Kimmock. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he lost the race by a razor-thin margin, when I say he disappeared from public life, disappeared. Didn't see him in anything. And I think in a way, because he had presented himself as this progressive who wasn't taking dirty money and all that. You take $1 million from George Soros, that's the end of that conversation. And so he took the money, he almost won, didn't win, and then goodbye. So the fact that it looks on paper that the Wisconsin Supreme Court would go liberal, getting Soros involved in this only adds a significant amount of cannon fodder for the right that they didn't need. Why doesn't somebody step up and say, we don't need George Soros involved in our race?
Well, because the Democrats are run by their consultants and they want George Soros in these races because that's money in their pockets.
Exactly.
It's not. Look, you have with the Democrats and the Republicans, in the Democrats, you have a party with no rationale for its existence. There is absolutely no reason for a Wall Street friendly working class party to exist.
That's like Jews for Jesus.
Right. There's no reason for it to exist.
Yes.
And with the Republicans, you have a party that still is burdened by the ghost of Reaganomics, which they're finding it very difficult to give up. And they're going to have to, because they took the Democrats' old base. You wanted them, you got them. Now you can't just keep giving them platitudes about bootstraps, because that shit's not working for anybody. And the abortion issue is deadly for them. Ever since Reagan threw open the doors of the Republican Party to Jerry Falwell and his ilk. Yeah, you invited them all in.
Graham.
And for that gain, they had to sell out their principles. I mean, such as they were. The Republicans were not this socially extreme party until Reagan made his famous speech, I know you can't endorse me, but I endorse you. And that was it. It opened up the floodgates to evangelicals who, up to that point, people forget this. People like Falwell accepted, they tended to stay out of politics. They saw it as render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. They saw it as worldly, as something they don't get involved in. Once Reagan did that, that's it. Now those people are such a core part of your constituency that you can't really win without them. So what do they do now? You can't run now that it's not just talk.
Right.
Now that really, when you have a pro-life position, it has teeth, because now you don't have Roe v. Wade. You can't run on that nationally anymore.
No.
So that's it. So what do they do? That is a deadly trap for them that they're going to have to figure out a way to get out of.
Do you think that it's simultaneously, when the Republicans got co-opted by the evangelicals, is around the same time that Democrats basically gave their final FU to labor and got all in bed with corporations? And so now
it was around the mid 80s, right? I mean, that was the DLC. That was what, 84, 85, something like that. It was right around there.
Those forces were brewing in the 70s. You started to have these new Democrats starting to bubble up, who,
Yeah.
you know, I look, if I were teaching a class on how we got here, I would definitely dedicate one of the classes to All in the Family. If you go back and you watch All in the Family,
Okay, now these are like fighting words, man. You're criticizing All in the Family?
Oh no, I'm not saying it caused it. I'm saying it described it.
Okay.
Oh no.
All right, because I mean,
All
that
in
guy
the
was like my
Family.
poppy.
Come on, man.
Archie Bunker was like my poppy.
Dude, they never said it, but because Carol O'Connor was from Flushing,
yeah.
Archie Bunker lives in Flushing because they talk about bus lines that were in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, no, big All in the Family fan. But if you watch that early representation of the culture war, it describes to you what happened, because the show is about Archie, who, okay, today you would watch that, you would think he was a Republican. They never said whether he was a Republican or not. He did defend Nixon, which was typical of guys like that at that time, because he really appealed to angry working class kind of voters, which was kind of foreshadowed what would eventually happen with these Reagan Democrats, right? But guys like Archie Bunker back in those days, they almost to a man would have been Democrats. They almost to a man would have been registered Democrats. The arguments that Archie and Mike are having all the time are these culture war arguments, very much centered around language policing, things that would really come into vogue later on. It was woke. And what was Mike studying to be? A professor. He became a professor, right?
Right.
That is really what happened. Guys like Mike hated the Archie Bunkers who made up this post-New Deal portion of these working class guys who they considered crude and racist and not culturally sophisticated, hated them, wanted to break these people.
Yeah.
And Michael eventually grew up and took over our institutions, took over our cultural institutions, which is what happens in that show. By the end of All in the Family, he's a professor, right? He's teaching college kids. Clinton was the apotheosis of the Mike and Glorias taking over and putting their vision of liberalism into action. And NAFTA was a big fuck you to all those Archie Bunker types that they hated. And they basically said to him, what are you going to do? Vote Republican?
Yeah.
And in the end, they did.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.